These are a few more fantasy sketches. They are meant to be statues and gargoyles of fantastic beasts. These are from the Hogwarts Legacy Harry Potter video game. I just picked the ones I liked most. I'm starting with this one that I found in one of the many courtyards in the castle. I think this is the statue of an Occamy. It's one of those beasts from the Harry Potter universe. I think it's the one that changes shape in the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It's the one that goes inside the teapot if you've seen the movie. I'm painting all of these with gouache on Bristol paper, by the way. I started with some blue for this statue because I want the stone to have different hues. I don't want it to be just one color. In the middle, there's supposed to be some plants, which I have included in the piece. It's kind of a flower pot, I guess, although the plants look more like wild plants than curated flowers. I wanted to keep it all in the same hue or similar hue, so I painted the background in blue. I added some yellow touches to the Occamy to help add some interest in the piece. This is a statue that is supposed to be outside, so the stone has many different variations thanks to the moss and whatever else grows on the rocks outside. I want to say mushrooms, but I don't think that's the proper term. Anyway, I added different colors to the stone, but this time I felt like using ink to do line work on the sketches. My previous sketches from this set, I think I did them all with just gouache, but I felt like using ink here. In general, I like the use of gouache and ink, like the combination of those two materials. But this time I chose it because it would be easier to make details with the ink than with this particular gouache. So I decided to detail the scales of the Occamy this way. I think it gives a nice kind of cartoonish look when the interior is rendered with many values, but there's still definition with the inked lines. This is the finished sketch. It has that sketchy feeling. It's not perfect, but I am happy with the result. This next sketch is a gargoyle, or a dragon in gargoyle form. It's in one of the courtyards, like overlooking one of the courtyards, you know? Like a traditional gargoyle, it's just at the top of building. Behind it were some of those wild climbing plants, and I decided to include them in my sketch. The problem with the sketches in this video, it's something I should have considered before I started. It's the fact that these are all statues, so they are the same material and color, which I think can make this a bit boring. It can be boring when illustrations or sketches are too similar to each other, but I try to make it interesting by playing with the colors. Adding the plants of the background can help with adding variety between sketches and in the sketch itself. In this instance, I went with a dark grey-green color for the stone. I am also doing the ink lines for this sketch. In the end, I really didn't do much rendering with the gouache. I guess I used it much more like a watercolor wash or a more opaque watercolor. And I also detailed the vegetation with the ink. This is not my favorite of all the drawings though. This next sketch is a chimney in the shape of I would say werewolf, but it has wings. So maybe it's meant to be a bat, a very exaggerated and grotesque bat. I just thought it was very creative how it's a chimney. The smoke that comes out is from the Hufflepuff common room. Their common room is supposed to be in the basement of the castle, but their roof is a courtyard in the castle, if that makes sense. So the smoke from their common room comes out through this winged wolf chimney that you can find in one of the courtyards. I went with warmer tones for this one. I tried to add more definition with the gouache, but since I was enjoying the ink and gouache look, I just decided to go on with that look. I added some green and yellow variations of color on the stone, but it's overall very sketchy. I just applied it and let the water do its thing. I just left all the definition to the ink. I also tried to do some nicer hatching on this one, just to help with the shadows and to help make the drawing look more 3D. I like this one more than the previous one, but I think it's mostly that I prefer the subject on this sketch. I like any creature that looks like a dog in general. Here it's another gargoyle. This one I think it's meant to be a Kelpie. In the Harry Potter universe, a Kelpie is a fantastic beast, kind of like a water dragon or a water horse. So, for example, in this magical universe, the Loch Ness monster is considered to be a Kelpie. It's the biggest and also the most famous Kelpie. In the second Fantastic Beasts movie, there is a scene with a Kelpie. It looks really cool. I think that movie was kind of a mess story-wise, but the visual effects are very beautiful. This gargoyle was in the same courtyard as the other one. It also has the leaves growing around it. For this one, I decided to add some dark blue for the background. I think that the contrast between the dark blue and the stone will make the gargoyle stand out. I also did some definition with the gouache and a small brush, but I kept it loose in general because I knew I wanted to use the inked lines for this one as well. I did some hatching for this one too with the ink. I like it as a very rough sketch. I think it could have been better if I had done a more opaque background. You can see a lot of the brush strokes on the blue. I find it a bit distracting. It would look better if it was just a flat color, but I didn't notice it so much at the time. This one is another Kelpie, this time in statue form. I really like this creature because of the hoarseness it has, like the face and the mane, and especially the limbs that are like horses' legs, but they end in that type of fish fin instead of hooves. I think it's a really cool look. This one is also another stone statue, so the color I chose is blue-gray. I went with a darker background for this one, just like the last one. I thought doing this would give enough contrast to make the statue stand out, but I kept it very loose. I just used the gouache in a wash way by using a lot of water. I only used the opaque paint on the background. I really like this statue, but I didn't feel like I could make it look good with more opaque paint. So I decided to leave it as a rough sketch and to use the ink to give definition. I did the line work, but I also added some hatching. Since the color is applied very sketchily, it didn't help in making it look three-dimensional. So I had to use the hatching to give that sense of depth. It's much more cartoony, but I think it works in the end. This is the last of the sketches. Another gargoyle from the same place as the previous gargoyles. This one is a werewolf gargoyle. I like how all the gargoyles in the castle are recognizable magical creatures. I went with green-gray for the colors to portray the moss, or to give a hint that there is moss in this. I did try to include more values for this one. I wanted the gouache to help to portray the shadows. But even so, I still wanted to keep it loose and sketchy. To tell the truth, these are not my favorite sketches, but I am glad to include them in my Fantastic Beasts sketchbook. After this, I will go back to painting some of the actual creatures, not just the statues. I pretty much have painted all the animal statues that I like in the castle. There are a few others that I may include, like the Hogwarts animal. It's a hog with wings, and there's many of those in the castle. I may paint a few for my sketchbook. I still have a lot of pages left. I really underestimated how many paintings I can put inside the sketchbook. I didn't even realize how many videos I've made of this set. It feels like a lot. They are fun to paint though, and it makes for a lot of good practice. For this sketch, I also used the ink. And here's the final look. Here are all of them together. I like the cartoony look they all have, thanks to the gouache and inked lines combination. Here I have included them in my sketchbook. I use washi tape to stick them in, but sometimes they can come loose. This tape is not strong enough, but I mostly added for the look. I ended up putting 2 gargoyles in one page because it was looking a bit empty.